Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha television. You're watching the breakfast news this morning with me, Frank Pereira. Today we will be discussing in detail reports of a huge layoff in TCS, even as the company denies it. The company will release its third quarter report today, but more on that later in the bulletin. But first up, a look at the headlines. Political war of words begins ahead of the Delhi Assembly polls. Aam Aadmi Party accuses the BJP Delhi chief of being hand in glove with power companies. VS Sampath to demit office today after nearly 6 years. HS Brahma likely to take over as the next Chief Election Commissioner. Supreme Court questions government's targets on Ganga cleanup on a day when over 100 bodies are sighted on the riverbanks. And first issue of Charlie Hebdo since the attack is a sellout, but there is backlash from the Muslim world which accuses it of reckless provocation. Our first focus, of course, on the bulletin this morning is ahead of the Delhi Assembly polls. Aam Aadmi Party has accused BJP State President Satish Upadhyay of being hand in glove with power companies. Former Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal said that BJP leaders must come clean on their ties with power suppliers in Delhi. Rejecting the allegations, Satish Upadhyay threatened to sue Kejriwal if the charges are not proved. Here's a detailed report.
Aam Aadmi Party has stepped up its campaign against BJP ahead of the Delhi Assembly polls. Targeting BJP chief in Delhi, Aam Aadmi Party alleged that Satish Upadhyay owns companies which install and replace electricity meters in Delhi.
सारे पेपर सारे हमारी वेबसाइट पे हैं। वो कंपनी की डायरेक्टरशिप के, कंपनी की ओनरशिप के, शेयर होल्डिंग के, और वो इंडिया मार्ट के अंदर वेबसाइट पे इन्होंने खुद लिखा हुआ है कि हम नंबर 1 इंस्टॉलेशन है, मतलब अपनी पीठ थपथपाई हुई कि हम BSCS को कॉन्ट्रैक्टर सबसे बड़े कॉन्ट्रैक्टर सबसे अच्छे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर हैं।
However, Satish Upadhyay rejected the charges leveled against him. Addressing a press conference, he gave Kejriwal 24 hours to prove the charges. Also present at the conference, Delhi BJP Unit Vice President Ashish Sood said that he will resign if allegations of a nexus with the Delhi Discoms are proven.
वो कंपनियां जो उन्होंने नाम लिए हैं 2 कंपनियों के, अगर वो सही हुई तो मैं आपको निश्चित रूप से कहता हूं कि मैं अगले ही दिन कल ही, और मैं उनको 24 घंटे का टाइम दे रहा हूं, मैं टाइम बाउंड कर रहा हूं इसको, अभी तो चुनाव है ही नहीं। इन दोनों कंपनियों के बारे में या तो वो सबूत दें वरना सक्रिय राजनीति से संन्यास ले लें।
Aam Aadmi Party has also alleged that BJP had been dilly-dallying over its promise of slashing electricity tariff by 30%. But it did not criticize the firms when the CAG had complained that the Discoms did not furnish details of their finances. With inputs from Anu Diwan, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, the Congress came out with its second list of candidates for the Delhi Assembly polls on Wednesday. Former MP Ajay Maken has been included in the list of 25 names. Maken, who was earlier picked as the head of the Congress's campaign team for Delhi, will contest from Sadar Bazaar. Former Speaker Yoganand Shastri and Mahabal Mishra are some of the other prominent names on the list. Meanwhile, according to sources, Congress leader Kiran Walia will contest against Arvind Kejriwal from the prestigious New Delhi seat. Going on now, a day after slamming the Modi government over land ordinance, the Congress returned to Bhattaparsol yesterday to launch its protest. Attending a Mahapanchayat with farmers, Congress leader Jairam Ramesh said that the ordinance is not in favour of farmers. Here's more.
A day after the Congress attacked the Narendra Modi government over its anti-farmer land ordinance, senior party leader Jairam Ramesh attended a Mahapanchayat on Wednesday in Uttar Pradesh's Bhattaparsol. He attended the farmers' meeting along with former Union Minister Pradeep Jainaditya. Criticizing centre on the ordinances on land as well as coal, Jairam Ramesh said both were anti-farmer and anti-labourer.
जो कोई किसान के हित में है, के पक्ष में है, जो कोई चाहता है कि लोकतांत्रिक रूप से भूमि अधिग्रहण हो और जो चाहता है कि सही मुआवजा मिले किसान को, और जो खेत मजदूर हैं जिनकी आजीविका उस अधिकृत भूमि पर निर्भर है, तो वो इस अध्यादेश के खिलाफ होगा।
Congress has been alleging that the ordinance promulgated the government takes away the powers given to farmers by the Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act enacted by the UPA 2 government in 2013. The party has decided to hold rallies and agitations across the country, especially in places where land disputes are burning issues. The party wants to woo farmers and landholders against the recent tweaking of the land law through an ordinance.
ये हमारे लिए एक दिन, एक हफ्ता, एक महीना या एक साल का मुद्दा ये नहीं है। हमारे लिए ये हमारे मूल सिद्धांतों के खिलाफ जाता है। हम लड़ाई लड़ेंगे, अध्यादेश का विरोध करेंगे, लोकसभा में, राज्यसभा में।
Incidentally, Bhatta Prasol is the village where Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi had launched a protest against farmland acquisition in 2011. His agitation had led to the formulation of the Land Acquisition Act. Party chief Sonia Gandhi had slammed Modi on Tuesday, claiming the ordinance has destroyed the act. Bureau Report, Rajya TV.
Well, the government has accepted the resignation of Amar Pratap Singh from the Union Public Service Commission. Singh resigned a few days ago, 4 years before the completion of his term. His resignation has been sent to President Pranab Mukherjee, but the reason for his resignation is not known. Before being appointed for the 5-year term at the UPSC, Singh was the director of CBI from 2010 to 2012. At the time of his appointment to the UPSC, the BJP, which was the main opposition party, had opposed it and accused the then government of offering post-retirement appointments to CBI directors as an incentive. Sources say that Singh resigned in response to a CBI court's recent verdict on the fake encounter case against Amit Shah. The court had accepted the BJP president's argument that he was involved in the case by the CBI for political reasons. Singh reportedly felt the verdict raised doubts about him, as Shah had been arrested during his tenure as director. Moving on now, Chief Election Commissioner V.S. Sampath will demit office today after nearly 6 years at the Election Commission. Sampath turns 65 today, the upper age limit on the under the constitution for holding the post. Now, his tenure saw him conduct 2 Lok Sabha elections and at least 1 round of assembly polls in all the states. Sampath stepped in as a commissioner in March 2009 at the end of the first of the 5-phase Lok Sabha polls, succeeding S.Y. Qureshi as the CEC in June 2012. During his tenure, Sampath also presided over the conduct of presidential and vice presidential elections in 2012. Senior Most Election Commissioner H.S. Brahma is likely to succeed Sampath as the next CEC. Well, pulling up the centre on the issue of Ganga cleaning, the Supreme Court on Wednesday said that cleansing programs for the river have been going on for over 3 decades with almost no impact on the ground. The Apex Court wondered whether the government wanted to do something during this tenure or would it spill over to the next term. The court also sought fresh response of the government about the steps undertaken by it to implement the stage-wise projects for cleaning the Ganga in the states of Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal in 6 weeks. In response, the centre submitted before the court that 118 more towns had been identified by the government and that things had started moving forward. The centre has asked municipalities and other concerned authorities to get some work done. The court has also sought additional specific response on 70 sewage treatment plants likely to come up in the 5 Ganga Basin states. The government assured the court that the work on the STPs will be completed by 2018. Earlier, the court had expressed satisfaction over the government's blueprint to clean the river, but had sought its response on how it plans to implement the ambitious policy.
तमाम इंडस्ट्रीज़ जिनमें कोई ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट नहीं लगा है, किसी तरह का ट्रीटमेंट नहीं हो रहा है, वो इंडस्ट्रीज़ को बंद करने का आदेश दे दिया गया है और वो इंडस्ट्रीज़ को कम से कम यूपी स्टेट में सबको बंद कर दिया गया है। ऐसी इंडस्ट्रीज़, दूसरी कैटेगरी ऐसी है इंडस्ट्रीज़ की जिनमें ये एफ्लुएंट ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट तो लगा है लेकिन वो ठीक से काम नहीं कर रहा था, तो ऐसी इंडस्ट्रीज़ को 1 महीने का टाइम दिया था, तो वो टाइम अब ख़त्म हो गया है। तो उसके ऊपर वेरिफिकेशन चल रहा है कि उन्होंने कोई ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट लगाया है कि नहीं लगाया है।
Well, the Supreme Court's rap for the government came in the backdrop of over 100 dead bodies being found in the river. The decomposed bodies were found in Unnao district. The Akhilesh Yadav government has ordered a probe into the incident. Politics has broken out over the matter besides the religious dimension to the findings. Here's more.
Some 30 bodies floating on the surface of the Ganga recovered on Tuesday night. By Wednesday morning, the number had swelled to 104. One report said they would have deceased relatives of people who could not afford a detailed cremation and dumped the bodies in the river.
अब इस पर जांच करने के लिए मैंने कोतवाल सफीपुर को और अपने स्टाफ को भी कह दिया है और इस पर जांच कराकर त्वरित गति से कार्यवाही की जाएगी कि किस तरह से लाशें आई हैं। हो सकता है कि जो लाशें प्रवाहित की गई हों मरणोपरांत और जलस्तर कम होने के कारण किनारे आ गई हों।
Religious sentiments were aroused with anger at alleged desecration as the bodies were fished out. The state government ordered a detailed inquiry. This incident comes amid the thrust of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Clean Ganga campaign. It comes ahead of the Makar Sankrant festival that has added to the anger and even protests. The centre and state governments rushed in to douse the flames.
उत्तर प्रदेश में उन्नाव जिले की डीएम से भी मैंने बात की और उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार को भी मैंने सूचना भेजी है कि मेरे को इसके बारे में विशेष रूप से बताइए कि ये स्थिति का निर्माण कैसे हुआ है। और प्रधानमंत्री जी स्वयं जानकारियों के प्रति बहुत अलर्ट रहते हैं और प्रधानमंत्री जी उस रिपोर्ट को देखने के बाद हमारे विभाग को जो निर्देश देंगे हम उसका पालन करें।
बहुत से लोग गरीबी में अपने परिवार के व्यक्ति की मृत्यु जब होती है उसको जला नहीं पाते, गंगा में प्रवाह कर देते हैं। ये सब कुरीतियों के कारण भी हो सकता है वहाँ पे इकट्ठा हो गई हो। मैं तो चाहता हूँ सरकार को ऐसी व्यवस्था करना चाहिए कि लोग अपने अंतिम व्यक्ति को सही तरीके से भेज सकें।
The state government has announced that all bodies will be cremated with full rights as parties look to give the episode a political twist to come down on the SP government in Uttar Pradesh and attack the efficacy of the Clean Ganga campaign. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, it's time for a short break now, but on the other side, amid widespread worries among employees, TCS denies reports of large-scale layoffs. We'll tell you more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi plans to meet with his Climate Experts Council on January 19th, days ahead of US President Barack Obama's visit to India. This will be the first formal meeting of the Prime Minister's Council on Climate Change since it was reconstituted in early November 2014. The Council is expected to assess domestic measures being taken and planned as well as proposed to address climate change. It will also discuss areas in which India could partner with the US to deal with climate change. Discussions of the panel will form the basis of discussions between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Barack Obama. Obama and Modi are expected to work out an agreement on climate change that will help India address its development goals without dramatically increasing its carbon footprint. Well, US President Barack Obama will have a tight schedule during his three-day visit starting on January 25th. Obama will be the first US president to be the chief guest at the Republic Day parade. He will be accompanied by his wife Michelle Obama and a team of senior officials. On the first day of his visit, Obama will meet Prime Minister Narendra Modi to hold talks on the entire gamut of bilateral ties and discuss ways to enhance cooperation in key components including civil, nuclear and defense pacts. They are later expected to make a joint press statement. On the second day of the visit, Obama will attend the Republic Day parade. He will also join Modi to take part in the Indo-US CEO roundtable. Moving on now, amid fears that TCS is handing out pink slips to thousands of employees, the company clarified yesterday it hasn't initiated any large-scale exits of staff. The fears were triggered by reports that the company had sacked over 2,500 employees on Tuesday. Here's more.
Tata Consultancy Services has broken its silence on the controversy over large-scale layoffs. While denying reports of layoffs, the company admitted what it called involuntary attrition for the first 9 months of the year. It said the figure was 2,574 or nearly 1% of its employee strength.
this involuntary attrition and separation is not permissible under the statute and constitution of India. It is contrary to the statute, that is Industrial Law and Industrial Dispute Act. Because what you are adopting the practice, the employer is adopting the practice of issuing the employee by giving certain monetary benefits, which is completely opposed to the statute.
Fears were sparked in the industry by media reports that said TCS, which happens to be India's largest software company, had over the next 9 months plans to sack 25 to 30,000 employees.
जो कहा जा रहा है कि बड़ी-बड़ी कंपनियों के अंदर रोजगार के नए अवसर उदारवादी आर्थिक नीतियों से खुल रहे हैं, ये तो रोजगार के जो लोग लगे हैं उनको निकाला जा रहा है। इसलिए मैं समझता हूं कि केंद्र सरकार को इस पर तत्काल ध्यान देना चाहिए और पता करना चाहिए कि कारण क्या है।
TCS officials told Rajya Sabha TV that the company's third quarter report will be released on Thursday and will shed light on the situation. But paradoxically, while the company routinely claims that the performance of its employees is good, it seemed to be admitting the truth about layoffs as well. Industry sources have also expressed fear that senior people are being removed and were being replaced by juniors for lesser money. With Akhilesh Suman, Bureau Report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And joining me for a chat this morning on this very subject is Mr. Arvind Kumar Vajpayee, Special Counsel, Government of India. Good morning, Arvind, and thanks for joining me on the program. You know, there has been a lot of speculation, especially in the social media, several reports being carried out as well, that TCS has sacked over 2,500 employees, and, you know, they're going to sack some more in the next quarter. So, you know, is it legal really? You know, they're talking about involuntary attrition. So what's really happening on that front?
No, you have to appreciate one thing, that in the country there are 3 types of employees. Number 1 is golden collar, the other is white collar and the blue collar. Now, as far as the blue collar employees is concerned, they are governed by the Industrial Dispute Act, which is created under the statute, that is the Constitution of India. Now, under the Industrial Dispute Act, there are certain provisions like layoff, retrenchment and closure. Now, what the private companies are doing, they are in the habit of bypassing such laws, and they are adopting a policy by which induce the employee to take the voluntary retirement or voluntary termination. Now, these things are contrary to the law, and if such a practice is avoided by the employer by invoking the jurisdiction of the court, then it will be helpful to the private employees. But what is happening? The trade unions are not performing their duties correctly. They should oppose it. They could have challenged such a practice in the court of law. They could have challenged such a practice before the labor machinery, which initiated at the state level, at the central level, at the district level. I am afraid if such a practice is increased in the country, it is really taking away the social right of employee, that is employment. If the right of employment is taken away in such a fashion, then I am afraid that it is a termination, and termination is a capital punishment under the Industrial Jurisprudence Act.
So is there any kind of action that is going to be initiated against TCS for this so-called termination that you're talking
the
about?
labor machinery, entire labor commissioner of the state, of the central labor, they have a power to prosecute them by adopting, because it is an act which is an unfair labor practice. It comes under the purview of unfair labor practice, for which the employer can be prosecuted, and there is a punishment of 6 months with fine. What they have to do, if they really want to retrench to the employees, they could have gone to the labor machinery, they could have taken permission, and thereafter they can do that. And while moving such an action, the representative of the employees, that is a trade union or the representative or the person concerned, will be heard as to why he should not be allowed to give the permission to take retrenchment or layoff or a closure. But such a practice is not being adopted, which is very, very harmful to poor employees. That you mean see industrial workman. Workman is defined. And as far as the gold collar is concerned, they are governed by the particular contract.
Okay.
If a valid contract is there, then they can do it. But as far as the blue collar is concerned, they have to be governed by the industrial law.
All right. And now these blue-collar employees that you're talking about, several of them who have already been terminated, I'm using your language now. Now, can they approach a court, or what can they do to ensure that they get some kind of, settlement or some kind of justice?
They have a right to go to the court. But the point is, such a lucrative attractions are there, monetary benefits are. Suppose they say that we will give you 5 lakhs rupees. Then under the garb of that monetary benefits, they don't go to the court. But the point is whether the employer can be allowed to bypass the law of the land or not. Individual may not go to the court, but it is the duty of the labor machinery to inspect and to ensure that the law is being implemented by both the sides. Although remedy is available, the trade union have a right to go to the court, the individual workmen have a right to go to the court. But as I said, because since the lucrative monetary benefits are there, that's why they may not go to the court. But it becomes the duty of the labor machinery to check such type of action on the part of the employer.
All right, we'll have to leave it to that. Thank you so much, Arun Kumar Vajpayee, for joining us on the program this morning and putting things into perspective for us.
Thank you.
Well, let's now take a look at the other national news we are tracking this morning in our segment Nationwide. The Delhi's police questioned 4 people on Wednesday in connection with the Sunanda Pushkar murder case a week after the case was registered. These include Shashi Tharoor's personal security officer. The officer was asked about the details of Tharoor's movements in the days leading up to Sunanda Pushkar's death. Another person questioned was Dr. Sanjay Diwan, the Consul General for Cape Verde, as a family friend of Tharoor. Union Minister and senior BJP leader Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi was given a 1-year jail term by a local court in Uttar Pradesh for violating prohibitory orders during the 2009 Lok Sabha polls. Naqvi was a BJP candidate from the Rampur Lok Sabha constituency back then. Naqvi, the Minister of State for Minority Affairs, was later granted bail. 2 more swine flu patients, one 60-year-old and another 28-year-old, died in Andhra Pradesh on Wednesday. The deaths have taken the swine flu toll to 3 in January and 8 between December 2014 and January. So far, 67 positive swine flu cases have been reported in Hyderabad between January 1st and 14th. Moving on to some international news now. The first issue of Charlie Hebdo since the attack on the newspaper office last week has been a hit, flying off the shelves at super speed. However, it has been slammed in the Muslim world, which accuses it of reckless provocation and insulting Prophet Muhammad. The press in most Muslim countries did not publish the cover, and a Turkish court banned the cartoon from being released on websites as well. Here's more.
A day after the new edition of Charlie Hebdo that features a cartoon of a crying Prophet Muhammad on its cover flew off the shelves, selling like hotcakes, there came backlash. Anger was evident in the Islamic world over the edition. In Turkey, a court ordered a block on websites featuring the controversial cover of the new issue. Dozens of protesters also took to the streets to demonstrate against a newspaper that had published the translated versions of the cartoons. In the Philippines, close to 1,500 people protested in the main square in Marawi. Several hundreds also protested in the streets of the Mauritian capital. In Egypt, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi issued a decree giving the Prime Minister authority to ban any foreign publications offensive to religion.
Diversity of opinion, diversity of cultures, diversity of religions is the nature and reality of the world. We have to respect that. We cannot impose our value on any culture. So we believe that, unfortunately, we are dealing with 2 extremes on both sides.
Meanwhile, the US has said that the video in which Al-Qaeda claimed responsibility for Paris attacks seems to be authentic.
We're still looking at every piece of information to determine, exactly the links here between the attackers and AQAP, particularly specific members of AQAP, like you noted, Anwar al-Awlaki. That investigation is clearly ongoing. And so if we have more to share about financing or training specifically, we will do so.
A week after the 3 days of bloodshed that left 17 people dead, France continues to be on high alert. Security at over 300 Parisian sites has been reinforced. Police are still looking for the accomplices of the accused in the attack. Meanwhile, the country will be sending an aircraft carrier to the Middle East to work more closely with the US-led coalition fighting Islamic State militants. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
More international news now. A man has been arrested from Ohio for planning an attack on the U.S. Capitol in Washington. 20-year-old Christopher Cornell was arrested by the FBI on charges of attempting to kill a U.S. government official. According to government documents, he allegedly planned an IS-inspired attack to place pipe bombs at and near the U.S. Capitol and use firearms to kill employees and officials inside. Cornell came under FBI radar after tweeting support for extremist groups. He was arrested by the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force after buying 2 M15 semi-automatic rifles and 600 rounds of ammunition in Ohio. Let's now bring you up to date with the other international news we are tracking here on our World Wrap. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to pass a bill against President Obama's recent immigration initiatives. Republicans say that the president's more overreaches his authority and is unconstitutional. However, the bill still needs to go to the Senate for approval, and the White House said that the president will veto it. In November last year, Obama announced that he would use his executive authorities to enact sweeping immigration changes. The lack of solid evidence might contribute to the acquittal of former Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak. Egypt's highest court accepted an appeal against the 3-year sentence over embezzlement and ordered retrial on Tuesday. The Cairo Criminal Court sentenced Mubarak to 3 years over embezzling public funds designated for the maintenance of the presidential palace. Mubarak's 2 sons, Alaa and Gamal, were also sentenced over the same charge. Thousands of Armenians protested and surrounded a Russian consulate and military base in Armenia, demanding the handover of Russian soldiers suspected of killing a family. The soldier apparently confessed to the killings and left the military base. Protesters broke through police lines and rallied just outside the base. Armenian police cordoned off the Russian base and deployed a heavy contingent of forces through the city. Catalonia's 2 main parties agreed to hold early elections in the northeastern Spanish region. The elections will be held to use as a proxy for a referendum on independence. The elections will be held on September 27th this year. However, the government of Spain said that any vote on independence is unconstitutional. Let's now bring you up to date with sports news from around the world in our latest sports beat. India's open water swimmer Bhakti Sharma has set a world record by swimming 1.4 miles in 52 minutes in freezing temperatures in the Antarctic Ocean. Bhakti became the first Indian woman to achieve this feat, beating the record of British open water swimming champion Louise Pugh and American swimmer Lynn Cox. She also became the youngest and the first Asian girl to have achieved this and has now conquered all 5 oceans of the world. Tottenham advanced to round 4 of the FA Cup after defeating Burnley 4-2 at White Hart Lane on Wednesday. Burnley's Marvin Sordell's strike in the 3rd minute gave the visitors an early lead, followed by Ross Wallace's goal that put Burnley 2-0 ahead. But Paulinho pulled 1 goal back for the hosts before Etienne equalised before half-time. Tottenham will now host Leicester in the 4th round. Saudi Arabia kept their Asian Cup hopes alive after they came from behind to beat North Korea 4-1. North Korea, who scored its first Asian Cup goal in 23 years, went ahead in the 11th minute, but poor defence cost them 4 goals and resulted in their elimination. World number 1 Novak Djokovic and Serena Williams will be the top seeds for the Australian Open starting next week. Djokovic is bidding for his 5th title at Melbourne, while Serena is gunning for her 6th Australian Open crown. 17 times Grand Slam champion Roger Federer is seeded 2nd ahead of injury-plagued Rafael Nadal. Well, that's it on this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.